Hey everyone, Leroy here. Today we're checking out ARTURIA's new MiniFreak, which is a 6-voice, algorithmic, polyphonic, hybrid synthesizer. Yeah! Let's check it out. Now, I can't really remember when the MicroFreak was released, but it's gone on to become somewhat of a cult classic in the synth world. The kooky keyboard was kind of divisive as it was touch capacitive, and some people really loved it as it was really expressive, and other people not so much. But it was the digital oscillator section and the analog filter which really gave it its unique sound, and that's absolutely the case with the MiniFreak. The dual oscillator section is the heart and soul of this synthesizer. It's comprised of 2 algorithmic oscillators that can produce multiple filter types. So if I scroll through the type knob here, I can change the oscillator type for each of the 2 oscillators. The wave, timbre, and shape knobs change different characteristics of each of those oscillators. We have the ability to tune each of those oscillators as well via semitones, cents, and full octaves. And we can also change the volume, so we can blend between each oscillator to create really unique tones and stack all those voices on top of each other. Moving on, we have an analog filter. So this is why it's a hybrid synth, because it's a digital oscillator with an analog filter. It's a multi-mode filter, so we've got low pass, band pass, and high pass filter types with resonance. And it's really nice on the display here. We can really see that resonant peak. You also have an envelope. Speaking about envelopes, we have this cycling envelope. So this becomes like another modulation source. And we can actually change it so it will loop. So it's almost like a third LFO. Why is it like third LFO? Because we've got 2 over here. We can cycle between LFO1 and LFO2, change the rate, and we can cycle through different waveforms. And if we hold the shift button, we can load different waveform types as well as create our own customized waveforms too, which is really, really handy. Over here we have our amp envelope, and this is where you're able to change the voicing mode. So I can go mono, poly, and of course it's a 6-voice polysynth, paraphonic mode, and unison. Whew. Mental. Now over here we have some effects. So we have 3 effects inserts which can actually act as sends as well, and we can just press these little buttons to cycle between the different effects inserts and choose a different effect type per slot. So we have EQ and all these different little effects and all these great little animations. Nice work, Arturia. And these knobs here change the different parameters for each of those effects. If you hold the shift button, you can actually change the effect preset as well. So you have multiple presets for all of these effects. Very nice. Now, what's going on down here? Well, we have the arpeggiator. And all of these buttons sort of change the way that the arpeggiator behaves. So we have up, down, unison, random, and order, all the kind of usual suspects, as well as a few other kooky little things. We've got these little frogs here. Changes the octave range, presumably because it jumps up octaves range. And here we got ratchet, which we can add momentary ratcheting to our ratchet, to our arpeggiation. Very cool. Randomize, we can randomize the octave range and mutate. So presumably we could just like completely randomize and mutate the arpeggiation. Not too sure what that does. Nonetheless, we'll follow up with another video. We also have a sequencer. So if I press sequencer mode and hit play, it's a little slow, so let's speed that up a bit by changing the rate. There we go. And when you press stop, but you hold a note, you can actually play the sequencer with the notes. So it transposes the sequencer relative to the key that you press. Cool. But what about we just create our own sequence? So we could just go ahead, let's go shift and erase, and let's erase the sequence. And let's just hit record, and this puts us into step sequencing. How's my keyboard skills, right? Cool, here we go. Let's take some notes out, just to make it a bit more random. Now, it wouldn't be a step sequencer if there was no such thing as automation, and we've got 4 automation lanes that we can modulate throughout our sequence. You've got to press the mod button and then record to be able to record your modulation. You get the idea. Here we have our modulation matrix. So this is where you're able to assign modulation sources to modulation destinations. And to do that, you just use this matrix knob here, and you can sort of cycle between all the sources and the destinations. It's a little bit like that game Battleships. Does anybody remember that game? I don't think I ever played that game, but I know that that's how that kind of worked. And you can click, enter in a value, and now the LFO is now modulating the cutoff. So you can kind of theoretically do that with all these different parameters to create a really interesting sound that moves a lot with you. And it's really easy to just kind of like put those in and enter in the value. Here we have our pitch bend and mod wheel, which does what a pitch bend and mod wheel does via these 2 little touch strips. But what's really cool, we have this Mac wheel button, which we can use the touch strips to assign macro control over different parameters on our synthesizer. So here I'll hit shift and macro and then touch this strip, and then I can assign it to the cutoff filter, add in an amount, and I'll also assign it to the amount of the reverb. Dial that in as well, shift, macro. Nice. So I'm controlling the amount of reverb and the cutoff filter with this one strip. Very nice. Now on the back here, we've got all of our connections. So what's really nice to see is 3 MIDI ports. We've got in, out, and through, and these are all 5-pin MIDI sockets. The MicroFreak had MIDI in and out, which was nice, but you needed the 3.5mm TRS to MIDI adapter, which was fine, but it could be annoying at times. It's really nice to see full-size connections. We've also got clock in and out for syncing with other devices, as well as an audio input. So presumably we could use this for running an external sound source through the filter and maybe the effects. I'm not quite sure. I haven't got to that stage yet, but we'll follow up in another video. In terms of build quality, this is built like an absolute tank. It's built entirely of metal. Well, the enclosure is at least, and it feels really, really nice. And it has, as you can see, it shares some similar design aesthetics as the MicroFreak. All right, so let's fire up some patches. Thank you, Arturia, for sending this. Absolutely loving this. It looks and feels great, and also, so far, from what I can tell, sounds amazing. Let us know in the comments what you think. Is this a freak for you? Until next time, we'll see you later.